You open your eyes. The world is a blur of damp soil and splintered eggshell. It is dark, suffocatingly warm, and it smells of rot. This is not a gentle awakening. It is a violent, gasping entry into existence, a frantic tearing of your soft prison, driven by an instinct you don't understand. The air you finally gulp is thick, heavy, and buzzing with the drone of insects the size of your head. You are slimy, weak, and exquisitely vulnerable. Consciousness returns to nature's most ambitious piece of over-engineered paranoia. Official designation: Ankylosaurus magniventris. A rather grand title, meaning fused lizard with a great belly. But to the uncaring universe, you are simply an Ankylosaurus. A name that hints at your entire, ridiculous purpose: to be fused, to be armored, to be a living fortress. A purpose, as we are about to see, that is less a noble calling and more a lifelong curse. Your first sensation beyond the struggle for air is a frantic scrabbling. These are your siblings. You are hatchling number 7, or maybe 9. It doesn't matter. You are one of a dozen identical, terrified creatures clawing your way out of this decomposing compost heap that serves as your nest. There is no maternal warmth here. Your mother, a 6-ton walking citadel, fulfilled her biological duty by digging a hole and burying you in it. Her parental affection has all the tenderness of a dump truck laying a load of gravel. She is miles away now, mindlessly pursuing her only other purpose: eating. The silence you expected to be broken by a mother's call is instead shattered by a high-pitched squeal. One of your siblings, the one that hatched a second too late, is gone. Snatched by a furry, badger-like mammal that saw your grand debut not as a miracle of life, but as a conveniently timed, self-serve buffet. You don't feel grief. You don't feel loss. You feel a primal, cold surge of relief that it wasn't you. This is your first and most important lesson. The world is a chaotic, hungry machine, and the only virtue that matters is being marginally luckier and quicker than the creature next to you. Family is just the first obstacle. You scramble out of the nest, your tiny, still soft body a beacon of fresh meat. The world outside the nest is a terrifying, open space. Towering ferns create a labyrinth of green and shadow, and every shadow contains teeth. You are built for defense, but not yet. Your famous armor, the envy of the Cretaceous, is currently just a collection of soft, bumpy nodules on your skin, like a poorly made leather jacket. Your tail, the future wrecking ball capable of shattering the leg of a tyrant, is a flimsy, useless whip that you mostly just trip over. Your survival strategy, for now, is pathetic. You are a walking meal, and everything is hungry. You stumble through the undergrowth, a clumsy parade of one. Your juvenile life is a constant, low-grade horror film. The main antagonists are a rotating cast of nightmares. There are the Acroraptors, feathered fiends that watch you from the branches of cycads. They don't attack you head-on, not yet. They just follow, their sickle claws twitching with impatience, waiting for you to stumble, to weaken, to make one simple mistake. They are the living embodiment of schadenfreude, feathered vultures eager for your failure. Then there is the greater horror, the juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex. This isn't the lumbering giant of future legends. This is a lanky, gangly teenager of a predator, covered in a downy coat of protofeathers, moving with a terrifying, bird-like speed. It sees you not as a challenge, but as a practice dummy, a way to sharpen its skills. You are a mobile training exercise for the future king of killers. Its approach isn't subtle. It's a crashing, thrashing pursuit through the forest, and your only recourse is to execute your one, often useless, defensive maneuver. You hunker down. That's it. That's the whole strategy. You press your belly to the dirt and hope your lumpy, still developing armor is enough of a deterrent. You try to make yourself look like a rock. A very obvious, poorly disguised, terrified rock. It's the biological equivalent of a toddler covering their eyes and believing they are invisible. Sometimes, miraculously, it works. The predator, confused or simply bored by your sudden transformation into a piece of uninteresting geology, moves on. Most times it doesn't. You survive these encounters not through skill, but through sheer dumb luck. The T-Rex gets distracted by an easier meal. A larger adult of your own species wanders by, creating a much bigger, more intimidating problem. You must learn the tools of your trade, and the learning process is a comedy of errors. Your tail, this future weapon of mass destruction, is currently a major liability. You try to swing it defensively at a giant dragonfly, and the momentum sends you spinning into a mud puddle. You see your reflection, a pathetic, mud-caked creature staring back. Another juvenile, likely a cousin, challenges you for a particularly tasty patch of ferns. You puff out your chest, trying to look imposing, and attempt a threatening tail swing. You miscalculate entirely, whacking your own hind leg with a painful thud and scurrying away in humiliation. Foraging is a full-time job of constant, low-stakes gambling. You are a walking stomach, a herbivore with an incredibly unselective palate. You wander, head down, munching on anything green that doesn't move faster than you do. Is this particular shrub poisonous? There's only one way to find out. Your youth is a blur of stomach cramps, accidental poisonings, clumsy escapes, and the quiet, gnawing fear that your luck is about to run out. You see the fossilized evidence of others like you, their small skeletons bearing the tooth marks of failure. You are alive by sheer statistical anomaly. And yet, against all conceivable odds, you make it. The years of near misses and constant terror slowly, painstakingly, forge you into something formidable. The soft nodules on your back have thickened, expanded, and fused into a solid carapace of interlocking bony plates, the osteoderms. Your body has widened. Your legs have become stout pillars to support the crushing weight of your own defenses. You are no longer a bite-sized snack. You are a living hillock, a 6-ton behemoth of keratin and bone. Your tail has completed its transformation. The end is now a massive, fused club of solid bone, a sledgehammer designed by evolution for the sole purpose of shattering the skeletons of apex predators. This isn't just a passive shield. It's an active, devastating weapon, and you can feel the power in it, the effortless way it can smash a rotting log into splinters. The raptors that once stalked your every move now part before you like pilot fish before a shark. The juvenile tyrants that saw you as a toy now see you as a potential leg breaker and give you a very, very wide berth. You have reached the peak. You are an adult. Your life, once a frantic scramble for survival, settles into a placid, almost boring routine. You are a walking fortress. You move through the humid forests of the late Cretaceous with a newfound sense of security, almost a swagger. Your day is simple: find food, eat food, digest food, repeat. You are a master of your domain, a testament to the idea that if you become inconvenient enough to eat, the world will simply leave you alone. Life, for the first time, feels stable. It feels good. You have built yourself into an impregnable castle. And right on cue, here comes the ironic twist. Just as you master the art of defending against everything trying to kill you from the outside, the worst threat emerges from within. The problem with being a castle is that it's crushingly, monumentally boring. Your entire existence is dedicated to carrying around a suit of armor you hope to never use. It's a life of endless, low-grade effort. That 6-ton body and its fortress of bone demand fuel. You must spend nearly every waking moment eating, mindlessly shoveling low-nutrition ferns and cycads down your gullet just to maintain the caloric cost of your own paranoia. Your life is not a grand adventure. It's a slow, tedious march from one leafy buffet to the next. Then, the season changes. The air grows thick with a new tension. This is the new, sucky problem, one even worse than being hunted: the brutal, absurd theater of mating. Suddenly, the only creature you truly have to fear is yourself. Other males, just as large, just as armored, just as desperate to pass on their genes, are now your direct competitors. The tail club, that perfect predator deterrent, is now turned against your own kind. The placid forest becomes a demolition derby. These are not elegant duels. They are brutal, head-to-flank shoving matches, punctuated by sickening, bone-jarring impacts as you and your rivals swing those massive clubs at each other's armored sides. The goal is to cripple, to dominate. Winning gets you the fleeting opportunity to mate. Losing, however, means a shattered hip, a broken leg, and a slow, agonizing death from starvation or, worse, the indignity of being brought down by the very raptors you had long since ceased to fear. Your peak is just a new stage for a more personal, more intimate kind of misery, where your greatest weapon becomes the instrument of your own potential destruction. The years of brutal competition and endless foraging grind you down. The fortress begins to crumble from within. Old age sets in, not as a gentle fading, but as a slow, systematic betrayal by the very body you built for survival. Your massive weight, once a symbol of your power, becomes a constant, aching burden on your joints. Each step is a dull throb. Your once efficient digestive system, the engine room of your fortress, grows sluggish. The endless meals of ferns provide less and less energy. The tools of your trade begin to fail you. Your senses, never particularly sharp to begin with, grow duller. The scent of an approaching predator is harder to distinguish from the smell of rot on the forest floor. Your hearing, tuned to the heavy footfalls of danger, now misses the subtle rustle of a patient stalker. The mighty tail club, your guarantor of safety, feels heavier. The powerful muscles that propelled it are weaker, riddled with the fatigue of a long life. Your swings, if you can muster them, are slower, less accurate, more a gesture of defiance than a credible threat. Your status plummets. You are no longer a dominant force. Younger, stronger, more aggressive males shove you out of the prime foraging grounds. A simple threat display is enough. You know you cannot win. So you are pushed to the margins, to the less fertile lands where the plants are tougher and the good water is scarce. You become a ghost, haunting the edges of the world you once dominated. The bony plates of your armor, once gleaming and solid, are now scarred and brittle, some even cracked from old battles. You are a walking ruin, a shadow of your former self. And on a day like any other, the final confrontation you have been staving off your entire life finally arrives. It's not a younger rival. It's not a pack of scavengers. It is the apex, the tyrant, the one creature your entire evolutionary line was designed to thwart. You smell it before you see it. The musky, terrifying scent of a full-grown Tyrannosaurus rex. In your prime, this would have been a battle of titans. A well-aimed shot from your tail to its ankle could have crippled it, saved you. It would have been a fight for the ages. But not now. You are slow, you are weak, you are old. As the colossal predator emerges from the tree line, its massive head blotting out the sun, you resort to your first and last defense. You hunker down. You press your body to the earth, the same pathetic strategy you used as a terrified, bite-sized juvenile. The T-Rex doesn't charge. It is old too, and wise. It doesn't waste energy. It simply circles you, patient as a mountain. Its shadow passes over you again and again. It is testing you, inspecting you, looking for the flaw in your design. This is not a quick fight. It is a siege. The tyrant has all the time in the world, and you have nothing left but your crumbling walls. It is an engineer looking at a building slated for demolition. The end, when it comes, is not a moment of glorious, defiant battle. It is a quiet, brutal lesson in physics. The T-Rex finds its angle. It uses its massive head not to bite, but to push. It wedges its snout beneath your armored flank, and with a surge of prehistoric power, it levers you, shoves you, and flips you onto your back. The struggle is brief, pathetic. Your stout legs flail uselessly at the sky. Your magnificent armor is now entirely pointless. Facing the dirt, you are exposed. Your soft, unarmored underbelly, hidden from the world for your entire life, is now presented to your destroyer. The last thing you ever see is a maw the size of a manhole cover, filled with teeth like railroad spikes, descending to extinguish your pointless, tragic life. You have become a statistic, a footnote in the food chain. Your grand, armored body is torn asunder. Scavengers, the same ones that haunted your youth, move in to pick at the scraps. The great fortress is no more. And as your essence fades, a few miles away, in a quiet corner of the forest, the soil begins to stir. A new nest, a new clutch of leathery eggs, begins to crack. A new batch of tiny, clueless, armored things emerges, their eyes blinking in the oppressive Cretaceous sun, ready to embark upon their own identical, arduous, and ultimately pointless life cycle. A new farce is about to begin. So, why does it suck to be an Ankylosaurus? Because you spent millions of years evolving the perfect defense, only to live a life so boring, tedious, and painful that getting eaten by a T-Rex was probably a highlight. So, that's your life. A short, brutal, and ultimately meaningless cycle, repeated for millions of years. You'd think that would be enough tragedy for one creature. You'd think extinction would be a sweet release, a final closing of the curtain on this pathetic play. But you got unlucky. You happened to leave behind bones. And 66 million years later, a new kind of primate, a clever, arrogant, and relentlessly curious ape, dug them up. And that's when your personal, biological tragedy ended. And your public, historical humiliation began. You thought the T-Rex was bad? Oh, you have no idea. Your second life begins in silence and darkness, buried under tons of rock in what the apes will one day call Montana. For 66 million years, you have something resembling peace. Then, the digging starts. When the bone-hunting apes first find you in the early 20th century, you are not a you. You are a perplexing jumble of fossilized chunks scattered through the Hell Creek Formation. You are an anomaly. They have no idea what you are. The man in charge of this expedition, a relentless fossil collector named Barnum Brown, sees your fused armor plates and is baffled. Is this some kind of giant prehistoric armadillo? A bizarre turtle relative with a war club for a tail? Your identity hangs in the balance, subject to the bewildered imagination of a primate who has existed for a fraction of your evolutionary lifespan. You are hauled out of the ground piece by piece, wrapped in plaster, and shipped to a museum in New York. There, your bones are laid out on a vast table like a grim, oversized jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing. Brown and his team have to guess. They stick the bony plates, your osteoderms, onto your skeleton where they seem to fit, creating a pattern born of conjecture. It is here you are given your new name, a label you will wear for the rest of time. Ankylosaurus magniventris. It's a dry, clinical designation for such a ludicrous creature. Your entire being is thus redefined, not by the life you lived, but by the confused, educated first guess of a man who saw you as a prize, a trophy to add to his collection. Your resurrection is not a miracle. It's an academic exercise. Once assembled, your fossilized bones become your new form of currency. Their usefulness is no longer to deter a Tyrannosaurus, but to make men like Barnum Brown famous, to draw crowds, and to fill the cavernous halls of their new temples of logic, natural history museums. You are hoisted up, your bones drilled and bolted onto a steel armature, and put on display for all to see. But the you on display is a caricature, a grotesque misinterpretation of your reality. They pose you in a clumsy, sprawling posture, with your tail dragging on the ground like a ball and chain. This isn't how you lived. You held your tail aloft, a ready weapon. But this lumbering, tail-dragging pose fits their narrative better. It makes you look slow, stupid, dim-witted. You are presented as an evolutionary failure, a dead end, a lumbering brute just waiting for the sweet asteroid of extinction to put you out of your misery. This image, captured in paintings and plastered in textbooks and newspapers, serves their most cherished story, the story of their own progress. Look, your posture screams to the crowds of gawking apes. Look how far we've come from this dim, inefficient monster. Being put on a pedestal isn't an honor. It is a platform for their condescension. You are being used as a dark mirror to flatter their own fragile egos. You are immediately cast as a stock character in their emerging prehistoric melodramas. In the grand, atmospheric paintings of men like Charles R. Knight, who becomes the definitive artist of your posthumous life, you are perpetually cast in a supporting role. You are the sluggish, defensive meat shield, the forever menaced victim of the true star of the show, the heroic, charismatic, and far more popular Tyrannosaurus rex. Your entire existence, a complex tapestry of survival, competition, and daily struggle, is reduced to a single, static scene. You are either hunkering down in fear or being disemboweled. There is no in between. You are simply a prop. A piece of set dressing to make their favorite carnivores look more powerful, more dramatic, more cool. The rich ecosystem you inhabited, the subtle dynamics with other herbivores, the constant search for food, all of it is erased. Your new story is one of perpetual victimhood. You are declared a villain if you are ever depicted winning a fight, and a tragic, stupid victim for simply having the misfortune of being fossilized in the same rock layers as a dinosaur with better press. Your home, your world, is now just a stage for someone else's story. What is the ultimate, cynical takeaway from this first era of your second life? It's that after 66 million years of blissful oblivion, you were dragged back into the light just to be fundamentally misunderstood. Your first legacy wasn't that of a survivor, a fortress, a masterpiece of defensive evolution. It was to be a badly assembled monster, a two-dimensional character in a story you never auditioned for, a symbol of prehistoric idiocy, all to serve the careers and the comforting myths of a few primates in pith helmets who mistook digging up bones for understanding life. Then, as the apes' own century trudges on, they enter a new phase of their development, and you are dragged along with them. This is the age of mass media, of plastic, of a new kind of mythology. You are no longer just a museum piece for the intellectually curious. You are now a potential commodity. Your image must be simplified, softened, and made safe for the most important new force in their society, their children. Your slow, undignified slide into pop culture begins. The sharp, dangerous edges of your reality are sanded down. Your formidable armor becomes a series of cute, geometric bumps. Your bone-crushing tail club, once a testament to nature's brutal arms race, becomes a charmingly quirky feature, like a big, funny rattle. You are reborn as a plastic toy, molded in cheap, brightly colored polymers in a factory overseas. You are now small enough to fit in a child's hand, your fearsome visage frozen in a dopey, non-threatening expression. Simultaneously, their scientists, the high priests who first defined you, decide their initial guess was wrong. A new movement, a dinosaur renaissance, sweeps through their halls of academia. They look at your skeleton again, this time with new ideas about metabolism and posture. They declare, with great fanfare, that you didn't drag your tail after all. You were more active, more dynamic, maybe even warm-blooded. They have the breathtaking audacity to present this as a revolutionary discovery, as if they have unearthed some new, hidden truth, rather than simply admitting that their first, century-old interpretation was embarrassingly wrong. They re-break your bones, metaphorically speaking, to reassemble you in a more accurate pose, one that aligns with their new, fashionable theories. You get a little more respect, perhaps, but it's a respect born of their own intellectual vanity. Your primary function in this new world is to be sold. You are a product line. Your newly cutened likeness appears on lunchboxes, sleeping bags, pajamas, and sugary breakfast cereals. You become a reliable supporting character in their animated cartoons, almost always cast as the dim-witted but fiercely loyal Heavy, the strong, silent type whose primary contribution to the plot is to be the muscle for the smarter, faster, more verbose protagonist, usually a raptor or a young T-Rex. You are systematically exploited, not for your bones, but for your brand. Your image, now completely divorced from the grim reality of your existence, becomes an entry in a corporation's intellectual property portfolio. Your name is trademarked. Your likeness is licensed. You have transitioned from being a fossil to being merchandise. You have become property all over again, but this time with a registered trademark symbol next to your name. This progress in their world means your identity is in a constant state of flux, a perpetual victim of their scientific and cultural fashions. The collateral damage is the complete annihilation of any stable truth. One decade, you're a cold-blooded, swamp-dwelling, slow-moving reptile. The next, you're a more nimble, active, possibly even social creature living on dry plains. Their paleontologists reanalyze your tail club with new computer models. It wasn't just for defense, they proclaim. It was for ritual combat, for mating contests, a tool of intra-species communication. Each new theory is published in their journals and hailed as a breakthrough, a final truth that definitively overwrites the last final truth. You have no say in this endless cycle of revision. Your reality is whatever the current scientific consensus, or the plot of the latest children's movie, decides it should be. The fight for your own identity is a one-sided slaughter, and you lose every single time. Your true self buried deeper under fresh layers of their ever-changing stories. The supreme, deeply ironic summary of this age of supposed enlightenment and fun: you were promoted. You went from being a misunderstood, monstrous villain to a beloved, marketable product. It's a step up from monster to mascot, but it is a catastrophic demotion in dignity. Your brutal strength, your violent reality, the sheer terror you could inspire, it was all deemed too abrasive for their new sensibilities. It was all rounded off, smoothed over, and sanitized to make you safe for children and profitable for corporations. Your scientific image, meanwhile, was treated like a piece of open-source software, constantly being patched and updated by a community of academics, each eager to add their own line of code, their own pet theory, to your posthumous existence. Being a toy is just another, more colorful way of being owned. Being a scientific work in progress is just another way of being told you are incomplete, that you are not yet good enough to be understood on your own terms. Your second life had reached its commercial peak and its intellectual nadir. You were more famous than ever and less real than you had ever been. And just when you thought the indignities had reached their apex, the apes invent a new kind of magic, a new way to resurrect the dead. Welcome to the modern world, the digital age. Here, your actual bones, the last physical link to your time on Earth, become almost quaintly irrelevant. You are now ready to be reborn, not in flesh and blood, but in pixels and code. You are to be a ghost in their machine. Your redefinition begins in server farms and on the workstations of digital artists. You become a collection of polygons, a wireframe skeleton wrapped in a textured digital skin. You are resurrected as a CGI marvel for their summer blockbuster movies, a breathtaking spectacle of light and sound. You are also reincarnated as a boss encounter in their video games, a formidable, algorithm-driven obstacle for their heroes to overcome. Your existence is no longer defined by bone or plastic, but by data. Scientists, too, embrace this new form. They scan your fossils and build you inside their computers. You become a biomechanical dataset. They can calculate the exact tensile strength of your armor, the precise newtons of force generated by your tail swing, the stress factors on your vertebrae. They know more about the physics of your dead body than they could ever possibly comprehend about the crushing, tedious reality of your actual life. You are a scientific specimen, finally and fully dissected, not on a slab, but on a hard drive. Your new purpose, your final job in this long, humiliating post-mortem career, is to be a magnificent, and usually very brief spectacle. In their multi-million-dollar films, you are granted a few minutes of genuinely awe-inspiring screen time. The audience gasps. They marvel at the realism of your armored hide, the menacing grace of your tail club, the sheer, weighty presence of your digital form. It is a testament to the near-limitless power of their creative technology. And then you are killed. Almost without fail. You are brought back to life with painstaking care just to be dispatched, usually by the film's star carnivore, to create a moment of high-stakes drama and visceral horror. It's your big scene, your death scene. They spend thousands of man-hours and millions of dollars to meticulously recreate the way light reflects off your osteoderms, the way your muscles should bunch and strain beneath your skin, the way you should breathe in a world you never knew. All so they can watch you die in glorious 7.1 surround sound. Your final utility is to be the most beautiful, most realistic, most expensive corpse that technology can render. You are the ultimate special effect. What does this digital immortality they've so generously granted you actually feel like? From your perspective, It's just another cage. A more comfortable, climate-controlled prison, but a prison nonetheless. You are perfectly preserved in their digital amber, but you are stripped of all agency, all will, all purpose. You are a puppet, a beautiful, complex puppet animated by unseen hands. In their video games, you are a collection of scripted behaviors. You become a boss fight, an obstacle defined by a health bar and a predictable set of attack patterns. You patrol your tiny, designated area of the digital map, waiting for a 14-year-old with a controller to arrive and defeat you, to learn your patterns and exploit your weaknesses for points and a sense of hollow achievement. You are resurrected to be a digital punching bag. The final insult is kindness. The apes, now so far removed from the dirt and bone of your reality, create new ways to appreciate you. Tourists, who once had to trudge through dusty museum halls, can now put on a headset and enter your world. They can walk with dinosaurs. They can stand next to your perfectly rendered avatar, gawking at your size, reaching out a virtual hand to touch your armored flank. They feel a sense of manufactured wonder, a sanitized at the incredible creature they brought back to life. They are completely, blissfully oblivious to the fact that they have not resurrected you, but have simply built you a fancier, more interactive cage. You are a living museum exhibit, but the museum is now infinite, and the gawking crowds can visit anytime, from anywhere in their world. They are tourists in your existence, and you are the main attraction, forever trapped in their theme park of the past. And so we arrive at the final, most profound, and most insulting irony of your long journey. After driving your kind to extinction, indirectly yes, but their planetary dominance is the undisputed result of the same cataclysm that wiped you out. They finally developed the technology to simulate your return. And how did they use this godlike power? Did they use it to truly understand your life? To appreciate the subtle, boring reality of your existence? No. They used it to make you a supporting character in their own fantasies. They honor you by making you a monster to be slain for sport in a game. They celebrate you by making you a 10-minute spectacle to be torn apart by a bigger, more popular dinosaur in a movie. They study you by reducing you to a set of equations, a simulation of a life they can never comprehend. The final, cynical truth of your long and tragic relationship with humanity is this. Your journey has been a steady, relentless erosion of self. You went from being a living, breathing creature, to a misidentified collection of bones, to a cheap plastic toy, and finally, to a weightless, soulless ghost made of light. They claim to love you. They write books about you, make documentaries about you, build you in their computers. But their love is the final, most suffocating indignity of all. In their quest to possess your memory, they have destroyed it. You finally achieved a form of immortality, but you had to pay for it with your soul. Your silent legacy is to be a high-definition ghost, forever trapped, forever performing, in their relentless, ravenous, and eternally unsatisfying entertainment machine. This new existence is a peculiar sort of hell. It is a state of being without being. In your first life, your reality was defined by the physical world, the weight of your own armor, the taste of ferns, the solid, bone-jarring impact of your tail against a predator's leg. Now, your reality is defined by render times and processing power. You are an asset in a digital library, tagged with keywords like dinosaur, herbivore, armored, large. You can be copied, pasted, scaled, and deleted with a mouse click. Your very essence has become data, infinitely reproducible and utterly meaningless. Consider the artists and animators who now own your image. They spend weeks, months, poring over your fossil record. They debate the exact placement of every scute, the precise range of motion in your neck, the hypothetical color patterns on your hide. They do this not out of a pure desire for scientific truth, but to make your appearance on screen more believable right before you are inevitably flipped over and eaten. They are like master watchmakers, assembling the most intricate, beautiful timepiece imaginable, only for its sole function to be smashed with a hammer in front of an audience. The more realistic they make you, the more satisfying your destruction is for the viewer. Their meticulous artistry is just a prelude to your digital demise. Their dedication is, in effect, the ultimate insult. You are also a victim of their narrative biases. The apes love an underdog story, but you are the wrong kind of underdog. You are not swift or clever or elegant. You are a slow, plodding tank. So you are never the hero. The hero is the agile raptor, the plucky small mammal who will one day evolve into them, or even the majestic T-Rex, which they have imbued with a sort of fallen, tragic royalty. You are just the brute force obstacle, the living wall. You are the problem that the real characters have to solve. Your evolutionary strategy of supreme defense is framed not as a success, but as a boring, unimaginative dead end. Don't be an Ankylosaurus. Their stories whisper, be a hero. Be clever. Be fast. Don't just sit there and take it. Your entire life's philosophy has been posthumously judged and found wanting. Even their attempts at educational content are a form of patronizing theater. A documentary narrator, with a voice full of feigned reverence, will describe your incredible armor and your devastating tail club. Then they will cut to a computer simulation, your digital ghost materializing in a prehistoric landscape. The simulation will show you swinging your tail to break the leg of a CGI T-Rex. The narrator will call it a triumph of evolution. But then the simulation will run again. This time, the T-Rex is smarter. It dodges. It attacks from the side. It flips you. The narrator concludes that even your incredible defenses were no match for the king of the dinosaurs. You are built up for a moment, granted a flicker of respect, only to be torn down again to reinforce the existing pecking order they find so compelling. You are allowed to be impressive, but you are never allowed to truly win. Your final resting place is not the Earth, but the cloud. Your data, your model, your textures, they exist on servers around the world, waiting to be summoned for the next movie sequel, the next video game expansion pack, the next virtual reality experience. You have achieved a kind of omnipresence that would have been unimaginable to you as a creature of mud and fern. But it is an empty omnipresence, a silent, hollow echo in a world that remembers your shape but has forgotten your substance entirely. You are everywhere, and you are nowhere at all. Think about the children, the little apes who play with your plastic effigy. They hold in their hands a cheap, hollow representation of you, likely made in a color you never were, bright green or garish purple. They have no concept of your 6-ton weight, of the constant, aching hunger, of the terror of a predator's shadow. They make you have tea parties with other dinosaurs you never met, from continents you never lived on, separated by millions of years. You are thrown into a toy box, your tail club tangled with the tentacles of a plastic squid, your armored head resting against the wheel of a toy fire truck. This is the fate of your legacy, to be decontextualized, to be rendered meaningless through triviality. The child who loves their Ankylosaurus toy does not love you. They love a shape, a concept, a colorful piece of plastic, and when that child grows up, the toy is either thrown away, a colorful speck in a landfill, or it is stored in an attic, a dusty relic of a forgotten affection. This, in miniature, is your entire second life, a brief period of intense, shallow interest followed by a long, slow slide into irrelevance and neglect. And what of the scientists, the ones who continue to study you? They publish papers with titles that would be nonsensical to you. Biomechanical stress analysis of the Ankylosaurus magniventris tail club. Osteoderm histology and its implications for thermoregulation. You have been transformed into a series of highly specific, incredibly narrow academic problems to be solved. Each paper shaves off another tiny slice of your mystery, replacing it with a data point, a chart, a graph. They are not trying to understand your life. They are trying to win arguments with each other. Your fossilized remains are the battlefield on which their careers are fought. Your bones are ammunition for their tenure reviews. Imagine if you could see it. Imagine standing in the great hall of a museum, a disembodied spirit watching the primates mill about below your towering, incorrectly posed skeleton. You would see them point, their faces a mixture of awe and mild amusement. They read the little plaque at your feet, which gives them a few sanitized, easily digestible facts about your size and your diet. They might listen to an audio guide that plays a speculative, guttural roar that sounds nothing like any noise you ever made. They look at you for, on average, about 15 seconds. Then they move on. They move on to the bigger, more impressive T-Rex skeleton, or to the gift shop, where they can buy a more convenient, more colorful, more portable version of you to take home. In those 15 seconds, your entire 66 million year history, your life of struggle, your reign as an impregnable fortress, your brutal death, and your long, humiliating second life as a cultural artifact, all of it is weighed, measured, and dismissed. You have become a minor distraction, a curiosity to be briefly acknowledged on their way to something more interesting. It is the ultimate judgment. Not hatred, not fear, but a mild, fleeting, and utterly devastating indifference. That is the final punchline. After everything, you simply weren't interesting enough to hold their attention for more than a quarter of a minute. Let's consider the final indignity, the one that masquerades as the ultimate tribute, your inclusion in the canon of prehistoric life. You are a checkbox. Every dinosaur encyclopedia, every documentary series, every museum exhibit must have an Ankylosaurus. It's expected. You fill a niche, the armored herbivore. You are the designated example of defensive evolution. It's a role you are perpetually typecast in, a box you can never escape. This obligatory inclusion isn't a sign of respect. It's a sign of intellectual laziness. You are included not because of a deep fascination with your specific story, but because a story about the late Cretaceous feels incomplete without you. You are a piece of required narrative furniture. Like a chain restaurant, you are familiar, reliable, and utterly devoid of surprise. You are the dependable, boring option. Oh, we need a tank-like dinosaur to contrast with the fast raptors. Throw in an ankylo. Your existence has been reduced to a trope. Even the sounds they give you in their films and games are an insult. They are a generic collection of low-frequency groans, grunts, and bellows, usually sourced from a manipulated recording of a walrus or a pig. These are the sounds of a dumb beast, a creature of simple, brutish impulses. There is no nuance, no subtlety, none of the complex vocalizations you might have used to communicate with your young, or to warn a rival. You are given a voice that reflects their perception of you. Slow, stupid, and monosyllabic. And look at how they portray your intelligence. You are almost always shown as a creature of pure instinct, a reactive animal with the cognitive capacity of a turnip. You see a predator, you swing your tail. You see a plant, you eat it. This is the entire scope of your inner life as they write it. The possibility that you possessed a more complex social structure, that you experienced some form of emotion, that you were capable of problem solving. These ideas are rarely explored. Why? Because a stupid Ankylosaurus is a more convenient plot device than a smart one. A stupid one is easier to defeat, easier to dismiss, and easier to use as a benchmark against which the smarter dinosaurs can be measured. They have not only rebuilt your body, they have reverse-engineered your mind to be as simple and primitive as they need it to be. The final prison is the prison of their kindness, the age of sentimental hypocrisy. They now see you as a tragic figure, a victim of a mass extinction, and they lament your passing. They use your image on conservation pamphlets to warn of the dangers of extinction today. Help us save the rhinos, the ad might say, with a picture of you next to it, before they go the way of the dinosaurs. Your genuine, apocalyptic end has been co-opted and turned into a cheap emotional lever to manipulate their own feelings of guilt. You are now a symbol of their destructive power. It's a lesson they tell themselves to feel better about the damage they are doing now. They preserve you in their museums and their digital worlds, but this preservation is a form of control. It's a comfortable prison where you are fed a steady diet of cultural relevance, but stripped of all your wild, inconvenient truths. You are a living museum exhibit for your destroyer's descendants, who can look upon you with a sense of sad, sentimental superiority. They took everything from you, your life, your world, your identity, and now they spend millions to maintain your ghost in a cage so they can feel a little bit better about themselves. That is the final, most profound irony. Your legacy is to serve as an eternal monument to their hypocrisy. Consider the very atoms of your being. The calcium and phosphorus that made up your bones, that fused into your impenetrable armor, that formed your mighty tail club. For 66 million years, they lay dormant, locked in stone, a silent testament to your existence. Now they are subjected to the ultimate scrutiny. A scientist in a lab coat takes a microscopic core sample from your fossilized femur. They analyze its isotopic composition. They can tell what kind of water you drank, what kind of plants you ate. They can unravel the chemical secrets of your life. This is not an act of communion. It is an autopsy conducted millions of years after your death. You are a cold case. The scientist is not trying to know you. They are trying to publish a paper. Your life is reduced to a series of data points on a spreadsheet. Your struggles, your brief moments of contentment, your terrifying end, all of it is abstracted into chemical signatures and statistical probabilities. They have mastered the science of your body while remaining utterly ignorant of the spirit of your life. They can tell you where you lived, but not what it felt like to be alive. This clinical, detached understanding is perhaps the most hollow victory of all. They have you, but they have missed the point entirely. And where does this all end? It doesn't. Your second life, unlike your first, has no clean conclusion. There will be new movies, new games, new scientific theories. Your digital ghost will be reskinned, re-rigged, and reanimated for new generations of apes. Your plastic toys will be redesigned and re-released. Your scientific image will be revised again and again. You are trapped in an endless loop of reinterpretation. Your fate is to be forever rediscovered, forever misunderstood, forever exploited in slightly different ways, for all of eternity, or at least for as long as the primates who dug you up managed to survive themselves. They might even, one day, find a way to clone you, to bring something resembling you back into their world. Imagine that final, grotesque horror. To be resurrected, not into your world of humid forests and giant ferns, but into a sterile enclosure. A paddock in a theme park or a high-tech zoo. You would be a living anachronism, a creature out of time, gawked at by crowds of soft, strange-smelling apes. You would be fed a scientifically formulated nutrient paste, a pale imitation of the tough cycads you once devoured. Your mighty tail club would be useless. The only predator you would ever face is the crushing, soul-destroying boredom of a life with no purpose. They would call it a miracle of science. You would experience it as the ultimate damnation. To be brought back from the peace of extinction only to be imprisoned as a living spectacle. This is the silent legacy of the Ankylosaurus. To be a creature so perfectly designed for a world that no longer exists, and so perfectly suited for exploitation in the world that followed. You were built to survive a physical apocalypse, but you were utterly unprepared for the metaphysical one that followed, the apocalypse of being discovered by humanity. They are the one predator you could never evolve a defense against. Your armor cannot protect you from their ideas. Your tail club cannot smash their myths. You survived the tyrant lizards, but you were conquered by the curious apes. And your sentence is to be their monster, their toy, and their ghost forever. Let's pause on that image. The zoo. The ultimate expression of their sentimental hypocrisy. They would celebrate your de-extinction as their greatest scientific achievement, a reversal of the natural order, a testament to their own genius. We have corrected a cosmic mistake, their headlines would read. But it would be the cruelest act of all. In your own time, you were a sovereign being. Your territory was your own. Your choices were your own. Your life, however brutal, was your own. In their zoo, you would be property, a living asset with a monetary value attached. Your health would be monitored by veterinarians, your diet managed by nutritionists, your mating controlled by geneticists. Every aspect of your existence would be curated, managed, and optimized for longevity and display. You would be stripped of every last shred of your wildness, of the very essence that made you what you were. You would be a living fossil, yes, but also a living prisoner. The crowds would come to see the savage beast, but they would be looking at a creature so thoroughly tamed, so completely disconnected from its own nature. that it would be little more than a biological machine in an elaborate cage. They would not be restoring a species. They would be manufacturing a living trophy to put on their planetary mantelpiece. And the narrative they would spin around you would be the final twist of the knife. They would present you as a story of hope. From extinction, life, they would say. They would use you to teach their children about the wonders of nature and the importance of conservation. But it would be a lie. A beautiful, comforting, and deeply cynical lie. The truth is, they wouldn't have brought you back for your sake. They would have brought you back for theirs. To assuage their own deep-seated guilt about the world they are dismantling. To give themselves a fleeting sense of power over life and death. You would be the ultimate therapy pet for a species that feels bad about itself. Think of the sound you would hear. Not the chirp of prehistoric insects or the distant roar of a rival, but the constant, low murmur of the crowd. The squeal of their children, the click of their cameras, the synthesized voice of the enclosure's educational speaker system telling them your weight in kilograms and your diet in calories. This soundscape of managed curiosity would be the soundtrack to your new eternity. Your story demonstrates a fundamental, tragic truth about your relationship with these apes. They are a species that cannot love something without possessing it. They cannot appreciate something without controlling it. They cannot understand something without dissecting it and reducing it to its component parts. Their curiosity is a destructive force, their admiration a form of consumption. From the moment they unearthed your first bone, your fate was sealed. You were a concept, and concepts can be twisted, reshaped, and sold. Your legacy is therefore a warning. It's a tale not about the survival of the fittest, but about the tyranny of the intelligent. It shows that the most dangerous force in the universe isn't a predator with large teeth, but a creature with a large brain and an insatiable need to tell stories about itself, using the bones of others as its props. You, the mighty fortress, the unbreakable tank, were breached by the most insidious weapon of all, narrative. And in their story, you were never meant to be the hero. You were just part of the scenery, a silent, armored testament to a world they conquered, not with strength, but with relentless, self-serving curiosity. Even your name, Ankylosaurus, has become a kind of shorthand. It's not just a scientific designation. It's a cultural touchstone. When they want to describe something as being slow, heavily armored, and difficult to damage, they might compare it to you. A new military vehicle might be dubbed the Ankylosaurus of the battlefield. A stubborn politician might be described as having ankylosaur-like defenses. You have been verbified, turned into an adjective. Your entire complex being has been flattened into a single, easily understood trait, hard to break. This linguistic shortcut is another form of erasure. It strips away all the nuance. It ignores the fact that you are a living, breathing animal with needs, fears, and a complex life. It remembers your armor, but forgets the vulnerable creature living inside it. It's like remembering a great poet only for their bad handwriting. The most obvious, superficial feature has eclipsed everything else. You are a metaphor, and metaphors, by their nature, are simple. Your reality was anything but. Let's trace the path of a single one of your bones. Let's say, a piece of your armored scute. It lives inside your skin for your entire life, a silent, passive defender. It is buried with you for 66 million years. It is dug up by a fossil hunter, chipping away rock under a hot sun. It is cataloged, given a number, and stored in a museum drawer for decades. It is then taken out, scanned by a laser, and its 3D data is uploaded to the internet. A hobbyist in another country downloads the file and prints a plastic replica of your bone on their home 3D printer. That small piece of you, that physical fragment of your existence, has journeyed from the flesh of a living dinosaur to a piece of data, to a plastic trinket on a desk thousands of miles away. It has been utterly divorced from its original context and purpose. The person who printed it doesn't feel the weight of your history. They just think it's cool. This process, this journey from the real to the replica, from the meaningful to the trivial, is your entire legacy in a nutshell. It is a story of infinite duplication and diminishing significance. And so, you remain. Not as you were, but as they have made you. You are a skeleton in a hall, a toy in a box, an enemy in a game, a ghost in a machine, a word in a dictionary, a dataset on a server. You have been scattered, disseminated, and repurposed until the original you is buried deeper than any fossil. The ultimate irony is that by becoming so famous, you have completely disappeared. Your image is everywhere, but you are nowhere to be found. Your tragedy is complete. It is a perfect circle. You evolved an impenetrable defense to protect you from the outside world, only to have your memory invaded and conquered by a creature that attacks from the inside out, using ideas and stories as its weapons. You are a master of physical survival, but a complete amateur at the art of posthumous self-defense. And in the long run, it was the second battle that truly mattered. You won your war against the T-Rex often enough to survive as a species for millions of years. But you lost the war against their storytellers in a single century. And that loss was total, absolute, and eternal. Your impenetrable armor, the very thing that defined you, ultimately made you a prisoner. In life, it locked you into a slow, tedious existence of constant eating. In death, it locked you into a single, unchanging narrative. You were the Armored One. This label, this category, became your cage. It was so simple, so evocative, that it left no room for any other aspect of your being to be considered. The final, bitterest pill to swallow is the realization that none of this was malicious. It was not a conscious campaign to humiliate you. The T-Rex that killed you was not evil. It was hungry. And the apes who resurrected and redefined you were not evil either. They were just being themselves. They were curious, creative, and profoundly, inescapably self-absorbed. Everything they touch, they remake in their own image. Every story they tell is, ultimately, about them. You were just raw material for the great, grinding mill of their culture. You were an interesting rock they found and polished until it reflected their own faces. Your silent legacy is a testament to the fact that extinction is not the end. For some creatures, there's a second, stranger death that follows. A death of identity. A death by 1,000 qualifications, reinterpretations, and revisions. A death by becoming a beloved character. You survived the asteroid. You survived the predators. But you could not survive being discovered. So the next time a child watches a cartoon where you play the dumb, loyal sidekick, or a moviegoer gasps as your CGI form is torn apart, or a museum visitor glances at your skeleton for a few fleeting seconds, spare a thought for the creature you actually were. The living, breathing animal that trudged through the Cretaceous forests, whose life was a quiet, brutal epic of survival. That creature is gone forever. It has been replaced by a phantom, a hollow echo shaped by the needs and whims of the very species that would have, in another time, run screaming from the mere sight of you. They have conquered their fear of you by turning you into a caricature they can control. And that, the walking fortress, is a prison from which no amount of armor can ever save you. Your tragedy isn't that your life ended. It's that your story never will. Let's zoom in, one last time, on the sheer absurdity of it all. The fundamental mismatch between your reality and their perception. You were a creature of immense pressures. The pressure of the atmosphere, the pressure of gravity on your multi-ton frame, the pressure of a T-Rex's jaws. Your entire life was a negotiation with overwhelming physical force. Their world, the one in which you now live, is a world of weightless information. Of light flickering on a screen, of ideas transmitted through the air. You have been remade as the epitome of the virtual. This is not just a transformation. It is an inversion. It is a complete negation of everything you were. They took the heaviest thing they could find and made it lighter than air. They study your tail club and marvel at its biomechanical perfection for delivering blunt force trauma. Then they use that knowledge to create an animation of you for a video game, where a player can unlock a special move called Ankylosaurus Smash by collecting enough power-ups. The devastating reality of your weapon has been gamified. It has been turned into a reward, a fun little bonus in their interactive entertainment. It's like turning a real historical guillotine into a novelty cigar cutter. The form is there, but the terrifying soul of the thing has been utterly evacuated. And so, here you remain, a silent ghost haunting the periphery of their culture. You are more visible than ever, and more invisible than ever. You are a paradox. A survivor of one of the planet's greatest cataclysms, only to be captured and endlessly repurposed by the world's most successful weed, humanity. They are the ultimate invasive species, and their invasion is not just of land, but of memory itself. They have colonized your past and terraformed it, planting their own stories, their own meanings, and their own neuroses where your reality used to be. You are no longer just an extinct animal. You are a piece of occupied territory.